Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report. Trusted, timely, tradition.
Well, Commodity Classic drew record attendance this week, and while the trade show floor was buzzing, the main focus for commodity groups is to set policy priorities for the year. It's no surprise this year's focus was around the Farm Bill, but it didn't stop there. So this weekend, we sat down with all 4 commodity CEOs to uncover the biggest issues this year. Commodity Classic was buzzing with record attendance this week. But just before farmers and industry leaders landed here in Orlando, the U.S. Trade Representative's office announcing the next chapter in Mexico's plan to ban GMO corn. The USTR issuing a request for formal consultations with Mexico under the USMCA agreement.
We've said all along, if Mexico wants non-GM corn, pay for it, and the markets will respond accordingly. But violating a trade agreement is the wrong way to go about, meeting that demand if that's truly there.
For the past 2 years, trade has not been a key priority for the Biden administration, something groups at Commodity Classic would like to see change.
Number one, we would love for the administration to begin talking about trade agreements that involve market access, tariffs. The administration has so far just said that they want to address the sanitary and phytosanitary, some of the technical rules. So we're supportive of that, but really what we need is market access. And we would love to have the administration come back into the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The United States unfortunately pulled out before it was implemented. The rest of the countries have gone in and implemented it.
A year ago at Commodity Classic, the main issue was Russia's recent invasion on Ukraine and fears of possible wheat shortages.
We do still have the ability to feed the world. We have plenty of wheat in the world. It's really what it comes down to is how do we get the wheat to the countries that can afford it at their cost?
NOG CEO Chandler Gould says some countries buy wheat for calories, while others can pay for quality. And high wheat prices around the globe last year did spur shuffling of overall demand.
That said, we have the Emerson Trust Fund, we have the World Food Program, we've got many other humanitarian USAID programs that help us get our wheat into those markets so that we can help backstop that supply.
At home, drought in the West ate into last year's wheat crop. And as farmers in the plains continue to battle those extremes, it's taking a toll on more than just wheat.
We go back to 2022, the worst sorghum yield since 1960.
With a smaller sorghum crop to export, demand also took a hit, especially to China, a top destination for the crop.
Our exports are down tremendously, but our crop was down tremendously. So, we exported more sorghum in 21 than we grew in 22. So just to give you an idea of size and scope of how significant the drought was on our supply.
Growers in those hard-hit areas say Phase 2 of USDA's ad hoc disaster program was a step back from the relief they saw with Phase 1. That's why disaster aid within a farm bill is a priority for sorghum this year.
Whether that is a disaster assistance, whether that's an increase in reference price, there's 3 or 4 different ways that you could provide that safety net. And we're not really at this point saying exactly what that is, other than to say it is needed.
Wheat growers are also discussing the disaster aid piece of a farm bill this week.
That's something we're going to have to debate at Commodity Classic. As we saw the baseline come out in the CBO score, right now there's less money for Title I, meaning that we're going to have to figure out how to divide that pie even thinner.
And while growers debated this week whether it's a permanent disaster program or a continued push for ad hoc payments each year, the National Sorghum Producers CEO thinks there are ways to create a better safety net without taking money away from crop insurance.
There are ways without spending the total amount of dollars that we have spent over the last 6 years that we could do some things in Title I to really provide some extra dollars there to provide a safety net to get us out of this situation of an every year disaster.
For Corn and Soybean Association, the message is clear. They want to see Congress protect funding for crop insurance in the Farm Bill.
Obviously, the crop insurance is the biggie, but we also think that foreign market development and market access programs, those are smart investments for our government to make that will allow us to send our U.S. corn to places that need it and want it.
Both NCGA and ASA say additional investments in those programs would allow the U.S. to go on the offense to find new markets for both corn and soy.
We'd like to see a doubling of the MAP market access program and foreign market development funds. Those funds, really haven't been, their funding hasn't improved for over 20 years. And it's been chipped away by inflation and sequestration and other things. And so that's also a priority.
As commodity groups work to protect priorities in the Farm Bill, they're also not losing sight of ethanol, biodiesel, and other renewable fuels, especially since ASA says EPA's latest RFS proposal misses the mark.
It basically flatlines our industry over the next several years. It doesn't take into account the significant growth that's happening in the soybean crush sector, and that's driven by the demand that we had thought was out there for renewable diesel and biodiesel. And we have, unfortunately, EPA proposing to pull the rug out from under that investment.
For corn growers, they're looking at RFS and beyond, placing a growing effort on the Next Gen Fuels Act.
We are optimistic that bills will be introduced in both the House and the Senate soon that will get that process moving. That is a bill that effectively establishes an octane standard.
Caskey says the bill promotes low-carbon, high-octane fuels, something NCGA claims would be good for the environment and for vehicles already on the road.
When it gets down to actual bushels, some projections have that, it's like that can create an additional 1.8 billion bushels in new corn demand. And so you can see why that is a real high priority of ours.
Well, there's another challenge USDA initiated last year. Dig up some unique and never tried before collaborations to partner with for USDA's Climate Smart Commodities grant, and that's exactly what commodity groups did, including national sorghum producers that received a very large possible grant that they say they will be able to do field trials and find other uses and sustainable uses for sorghum. All right, we need to take a quick break, and then we have round 2 of our marketing discussion. That happens in just 2 minutes.
U.S. Farm Report is brought to you by DeKalb Asgrow Brands, official sponsors of Success. However you measure success, we hope you find it this season.